Hey there folks, today let's set up Supabase in a brand new Next.js app. First, we need to create a Next.js app. Copy the create next app command on the Next.js website and run it in your terminal. This is an npx command, so we need to press Y to proceed. Give your app a name and answer a few prompts. We'll stick to the defaults for now. Once the installation is done, let's open our code editor. When using Supabase, you can use your hosted instance directly, but I prefer to set up Supabase locally, so let's do that. Go to the Supabase website and follow the local development steps. First, let's install the Supabase CLI. Next, we need to initialize Supabase with Supabase init. You'll see a couple prompts as well. I'll stick to the defaults for now. Finally, we'll need to start Supabase locally. To be able to run Supabase locally, you'll need Docker running on your machine. The Supabase CLI will download all the Docker images necessary to run Supabase locally. Once it's done, you'll see a bunch of information about your local instance. Click the studio URL and you'll see your local instance running. The Supabase CLI also creates a Supabase folder in your project. You'll use it to store database migrations later on. To connect Next.js to Supabase, we'll need to set up a .env file with the information about our local Supabase instance. We'll need the Supabase API URL, the anonymous key, and the service role key. At any point, if you need the Supabase information, you can type Supabase status in your terminal to retrieve it. Now let's copy the anon key in our .env. We'll also need to update the next public Supabase anon key to make it available on the client side. Next, we'll copy the service role key in our .env as well. Finally, we need to copy the Supabase API URL, so our next app can reach Supabase. We'll make it available on the client side as well, via the next public Supabase URL environment variable. Now let's install the supabase-js library. This library will be used by our next app to query Supabase. Copy the command and run it in your terminal. There are multiple ways to use Supabase in Next.js. The way I like to do it, I create a services folder. Then I create a supabase.service.ts. This will be useful to run queries without the user authentication, for example, cron jobs or background tasks. For this service, we need the create client function from supabase.js. Then export a create Supabase service role function that calls create client with the Supabase API URL and the service role key. The next service is supabase.server.ts. This will be used with user authentication, but only on the server side. We can do the same thing as the service role. Let's copy the code, paste it, then create Supabase server, and then replace the service role key with the anon key. Let's create a third service, supabase.client.ts. This one will be the same as supabase.server.ts, but will only be used on the client side. Finally, I like to create a hook. It just makes it easier to interact with the Supabase client on the client side. Create a hooks directory, and then a use supabase.ts file. For this hook, we can use our create Supabase client function that we just created previously. We'll create a Supabase variable to store our instance. This will make sure that we only have one instance at a time, and we can type it with Supabase client. We'll export a function called useSupabase. We will check if the Supabase variable already has an instance. If not, we will create one and store it in the variable. Then we'll return an object with the Supabase instance. Now let's create a fake table so we can try our setup. Let's go back to our Supabase studio and let's click on Table Editor. Click on New Table. Name this table Posts and add a couple columns. We'll add a title, which will be of type text, and content, which will be of type text as well. I'll move the created at the bottom because that's how I like it. Now click Save. Now that we have our table, let's create some fake data so we can play around with it. In the sidebar, we click SQL Editor. I already prepared a query, so let's copy that in. And now let's run it. Let's check the table editor again, the post table. give it a refresh, and there we go. We got our post. Now let's create a function so we can fetch our posts from the database and display them in our app. We'll create a directory called data, and then a file called posts.ts. This file will export a function called getPosts. We'll use our supabase.server.ts for this one. So let's create a variable called supabase, and then call our create supabase server function. Now we can use the client to create our query. From the response, we'll just need the data and potential error messages. Then we called an await on the supabase client, from, and pass the name of our table, which is posts, and then select. From there, we'll check the error just to see if there are any error messages. Usually, we would log those messages. Right now, I'm just going to throw the error. Otherwise, we'll return the data. Now that we have a function to fetch our posts, let's see how we can load them into our page. Open page.tsx. Let's fetch our posts and put them into a posts variable. Now we can return our template. We're just going to do a title, which is posts, and a list with all the titles of our posts. Because it's a list, we need to make sure each item has a key. In this case, we can use the post ID. Now let's check it out. Oh, we don't have any posts. Well, that's because we have RLS, role level security, enabled in a Supabase database. Let's create a policy to fix that. Go back into the Supabase Studio and click Add RLS Policy. From there, click Create Policy. Now, we can name our policy anything. We're just going to say can see posts. We pick Select, and then in this Select dropdown, we'll say Anonymous, since everybody can read the posts. Now for the using, there's no condition, so we just put true. Let's create that policy. All right, let's check if we can see our posts. Let's give it a refresh, and there we go. We got our posts. That's it for today, folks. Now Supabase has storage, authentication, plenty of other features. Let me know in the comments what you want me to cover next. Don't let the bugs bite. Stay foxy.